So what I'm doing here, any of the areas that are really deep, that are undercut, like inside the ear, the really kind of inside part of the ear, I'm going to fill in the nostrils. I'm going to fill in with a little bit of clay. Now you don't want to do that by just slapping a big lump of clay there. You want to try to just fill in just the area you need to. So if there's anything that like would get locked up, that would definitely be stuck, like an indentation that kind of opens up on the inside, you want to fill in with a little bit of clay and then kind of smooth it out and blend it in. And you can carve those back out in the plaster cast afterwards. Or if you do a wax, you can also carve it out in that. All right? So generally, we want to keep like in sections that are divided. So usually that front section, because with the plaster, when I was demonstrating that, you couldn't pull one piece off. We had to have it in two parts. So that's sort of a minimum thing. Now I could get very careful about some of these things. I might run it along this bottom edge. Or I might not, because this kind of tapers out. I might just try this top edge and see what I can get. Because I'm trying to imagine pulling this way. And I'm going to go down around and back around the back side of the ear and down. Now I could plan out the whole thing first. I could take a tool, and we're going to use these metal shims to actually make kind of the formwork. If you've ever put in concrete, you put the plywood down for the sidewalk or whatever. And, because you don't just want the concrete going everywhere. So we're going to control that with these kind of metal shims that we're going to shove into his head, this head. But we'll see that when we'll do that when we get to there. But I'm probably going to go straight down off of this line and then come straight down around the back of the edge. And I might use clay because I don't want to shove this into that little thin area, because I would just chop off the ear essentially. So I'll use some clay there. If I could use clay doing the whole thing, except it's going to stick this clay, well, the clay, if I use the regular clay I've got, it's going to stick to this clay and it's going to peel off parts of the thing that I want to keep. Anyway, and these can be cut or trimmed. Some of these, this is aluminum flashing. I sometimes will refer to them as shims. You can use, some of our scissors will handle it, but you can also use like a cutter. Might need to trim them down. And sometimes what I'll do is mark off, where I'm going to go. I know I'm going straight down. I could make dotted lines everywhere and try to plan it out ahead of time. It's a good process. Sometimes I want to make a piece. I want to make sure that there's no indentation underneath the chin too much that's going to get caught. There's actually, I can feel a little divot under there that wouldn't be there anyway, but I'm going to fill that in just with my fingers to kind of make sure that I have something, so I have like one spot where it's lowest. So again, I'm trying to think about like I don't want to do it just on the other side of this, because then that nose will get stuck. We want it to come apart right on the middle of the nose. Anyway, so as I go along, I'm making sure that I push them in far enough so that they won't fall out and that they overlap relatively smoothly. So I create a smooth edge. And then I don't cut myself on the metal shims. Flashing. Okay. Some clay. So for this gap here, first I'm going to put some from the back. And just kind of smooth it in. And then here, where I can see that hole is, that is this area. I fill that in. Now when I go, this is essentially, I'm extending where the shims are, in a sense. So I get that line to where I really wanted it to be, but where I couldn't put it because I would be gouging into the clay, and I would just chop off the ear. Especially also on the bottom here, because we don't want it leaking out when we're doing this. I'm going to put some we're going to end up tipping this backwards, but what we want to do, I'm going to shim you out of the way, is spray down the parts that we are not going to make mold pieces on, so it does not dry out on us. And that'll keep it from drying out while we're working on it, but it will also, hopefully, if I spill plaster, it won't spill all over it. Make sure that's kind of the wet material will help keep it stuck there. Alright, so put plaster in. Now there is a method of mixing up the plaster and flicking it in and building up thin layers. Let's let gravity. I mean, that can be a good thing. It can be a good technique, but it's gonna make a mess. Let's utilize gravity. So I want to make something. I want to lay it. I want to lean this back. I don't want to just slam it against the thing and leave a big dent in the back of his head. Also, this is part of the reason why he's facing. I asked in the beginning, facing the corner. Is now when I lean it back, I should be able to lean it against the flat edge of it. If you're up on the corner, if you're facing forward, you're going to end up on the corner of the board. You have to like prop it a lot, which you can do if you get in that situation. But if we can't, if we don't have that, if we don't want to be in that situation, let's try it. That's why a flat edge, him facing on the corner will kind of help a little bit. So I'm going to try to tip it back. I want to have a cushion. So you can use a ball, clay. There's some bags here. Can kind of help a little bit, maybe too much. Out. So get him to the edge here. Try not to damage him. Lean him back. So now, boy, his mouth is going to get stuck. Now it's kind of relatively stable. Sometimes if one of these corners was really just pouring out, if I went towards back there, it's like a funnel, and you mix up the plaster and pour right out that way. You can put another shim there, but the way this has come together, I don't need to do that right now. All right.